Okay, so as a reminder, this is your review, which we're doing together. There's also one in this case that's called Review 2, and that one's a homework, which is due Monday in this case. Okay, so the first one says, if possible, use your law of detachment to make a conclusion. If it's not possible, tell why. If a triangle has base 7 and height 2, then it has an area of 7 square centimeters. That is a true statement. So think about area is base times height divided by 2 when you're talking about a triangle. Now, it's okay if you don't remember that formula. You just assume the first thing's true. Okay? So now what we're really looking at is the last part, because this says the detached statement is it has an area of 7 square centimeters. But the problem is it's supposed to match the front, not the back. And so it's going to be either one of these not possible or no conclusion. So we can cross out B and D. So then we've got to look at these two remaining choices and see what's right. So it's not possible to make a conclusion because it doesn't match the conclusion. And this one says no conclusion because it's not the same as the hypothesis. When you're doing the law of detachment, it has to do with the hypothesis, and so C is the winner. So that's C. Yeah, so basically this would have to match the front, not the back. Okay. Now the next one, this one you'll probably recognize from the Math Excel on 2.6. Give examples of vertical angles in the home or classroom. So the letter X would be a street or intersection would be, because it's kind of like that. Now a ladder is not going to be one of our choices. It would look like that, sort of. Railroad tracks would not. A pair of scissors will, because like if you open your scissors, then this is equal to that one, and that one's equal to that one. So I can't draw that good. It's going to be pathetic, but I'll still do what I can. It's pathetic. Okay, that's not that bad. Okay, I should give myself credit. Okay, so basically this angle would be equal to that one, and that one would be equal to that one. So pair of scissors is our answer. So we've got 3 answers. And then the window, that's only one that I was kind of like questionable on, because like in our case in the school, a window is just like that, but then somebody at home may have one that's more like, has these things here, these little boundaries, things. And so we don't want the answer for that to match the key. So just remember, we don't want window to be an answer. So basically, I'm going to say not always for that. Any questions? Oh, go ahead. If it's, in fact, I think I'm not going to put this one on the test, just in case. Yeah. Yeah, so this one won't be on the test. Because I could see why somebody would want a window to be an answer. Yeah.
Same thing as the road going up and down.
Oh, yeah, because it could also be, yeah, you're actually right. Because there's some streets that are not just like that, which is downtown, because they could go like at that angle, you would have vertical angles. Yeah, I think most of the time if not all, you would have an intersection of a street or a railroad that would be vertical angles, even if it's not 90s.
With the intersection with the loop.
Oh, yeah. Because sometimes, yeah, I think you might be talking about the circle.
That thing.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like a sun or whatever. Yeah, so I get it. Like the circle in Waco on around Valley Mills and the interstate.
My mom hates that circle.
Yeah, try to avoid that if possible.
Yes.
If you're a new driver. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, so number 3, write the two conditional statements that form the biconditional. So, again, we're doing a biconditional, so we do our if and only if. I usually put a box around it. And then we're basically going to say if that, then that. So if an integer is divisible by 100, then its last two digits are 0. So that's C. You can either do a little check mark or you could fill it in. The other one would be if you put the if here and then put the then here. So if the two digits are zeros, then it's divisible by 100. So that's D. So again, think about us doing a biconditional, and a biconditional means everything is true. And so this with not would not be the right answer, and this with not would not be the right answer. Okay? Since our original didn't have not. Any questions? Okay. So then number 4, find the measures of the labeled angles. So these you set equal to each other because they're vertical angles. And add x to both sides, so we get 5x is 70, so x is 14. Then from there, you want to do 14 times 4, which is 56, or 70 minus 14, which is also 56. So basically, you're supposed to get 56 for both of those answers if you did it right.
Proving the vertical.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Any questions? Okay. Then this one says use your law of detachment, and if it's not possible, tell why. If the band plays, the people are happy, the people are not happy. So with detachment, this would have to match that, but it doesn't, and so it's going to be one of your no conclusions. So in other words, they could be not happy for a number of reasons. Okay, I don't even want to speculate, maybe they're hungry. Okay, so it could be anything. It could be anything.
Every time I walk by my school, that hall smells amazing.
Yeah, it does. Right.
It was so bad. It was like, it was the color of your jacket that you're wearing right now.
Is that right?
It was so bad.
Okay, so here we have.
Crispy bacon. That's a little too crispy.
Yeah. Okay, so not possible because it doesn't match the conclusion, and this says not possible doesn't match the hypothesis. What is it supposed to match? Conclusion or hypothesis? Yeah, the hypothesis. In other words, the front. So that means it's going to be B. Okay, so that's B. Okay, so number 6, write a 2-column proof. Okay, so this one, again, just comes directly from the Math Excel. What you've got to watch out for when you're doing it by paper is they tell you about this 1 and 2, which are these, but you also have some extra blanks. So don't leave these blank. You got to fill those in. Whoops, I circled the M instead of the 3. Okay, so you got a couple of ones on the left as well as the multiple choice 1 and 2. Okay, so what we have to begin with is this statement is given, and then you've got this. Now remember, most of the time this is going to be either a postulate, definition, or theorem. And bisector, we're not told that because it doesn't say it's equal. And it's not the addition of equality, it's the angle addition. So I could put, you don't really have to write it in this blank, but if you want to, you can. You might actually want to do that so you remember to fill in these blanks. But I'm not going to count off if you don't have it there if you chose it. So that's the angle addition postulate. Okay, so the next thing is they're basically changing GFI to be 118, so you put 118 here because of substitution. By the way, substitution is your most common property. You're going to have it usually once or twice in a proof, sometimes more. So basically you're changing these letters to be that number. So you get that. Now this part you're given from the graph basically. And again you're changing GFE to be this and EFI to be this. And so that's another substitution. And so out of these choices, substitutions down here. Okay, the next part tells you you're combining like terms, so they want you to say 9x plus 3x is 12x. So we put 12x minus 2 right there. Now on this one, be very careful if you're doing it on Math Excel because it just says x already, and so you just want 12 right there. And you want 118 plus 2 because we're doing the opposite, so we get 120. 120. Now you're going to divide its division property, and so that's going to be 10. And here's how you know you did it right. Okay, so if you do EFI, we know that's 3x, so you're going to do 3 times 10, which is 30. You know you did it right if it matched this. So in other words, that should match that. It says 30 there, it's supposed to be 30 there also. So I know some people on the Math Excel have a little trouble with that, so make sure you recognize that the proof statement should be last. Any questions? Okay. Number 7, write the statement as a biconditional. So remember that the biconditional means you have if and only if. And so there's a few choices you can rule out. B and D don't say if and only if. Okay? And then it says, for a polygon is a triangle if and only if it's not 3-sided. So, again, pay attention to the word not. So it's not going to be that choice. It's a triangle if and only if it is 3-sided. So that's going to be our answer. Any questions? Okay, number 8. Find the value of each variable and the measure of each angle. Okay, so this is probably the hardest type question. What you do is you write all 3 equations that are possible. What I do is I put my vertical angle one first. So that's the 4y equal to x plus y plus 60. And then I'm going to do this one. Since this is a straight line, it adds up to 180. So 4y plus 2x equals 180. And then the other one is this equation, which is 2x plus x plus y plus 60 equal 180. So those are your three equations. So remember, we want to use our reasoning to figure out which one we should use. This one has x and y, this one has x and y, and so is this one. So that's my first pass through. My second pass, none of them cancel out. Sometimes you would either have x's cancel or y's cancel, but not on this one. So this is probably the trickiest one. So then what I do is I see this one has 2 y's, this has 1 y and 1 x, and this has 2 x's. So I want to work with this one. Okay? So now what I would do is I would solve for either y or x. I'm going to solve for y just because that's what we would normally do if we used a calculator also. So we get 4y is 180 minus 2x, and so now you get 45 minus a half x. Because 180 divided by 4 is 45, and 2 divided by 4 is a half. Any questions up to that point? So now you got to treat it like a system of equations. You're basically going to plug this in to either these two places or to this one place. Either one would give you the right answer. So I'm going to do it to here. 2x plus x is 3x plus 45 minus a half x. So that's what y was, and then plus 60 equal 180. And then from there, combine your like terms. 3 minus a half. So that's going to be 5 halves x. And 45 plus 60 is 105, equal to 180. And from there, you want to say 5 halves x equal 75. Then you have your choice of one of two things. You can either divide by parentheses 5 halves, or you could say 75 times 2/5. Okay, so let me show you this on the calculator. So basically, we have 75 divided by parentheses 5 halves, and we get 30. And if we do 75 times 2/5, you also get 30. So we know x is 30. Either method. Okay, from there we can put 30 right there. And then y is going to be 45 minus half of 30. Well, half of 30 is 15, right? So then 45 minus 15 is also 30. So for x and y, we both get 30. The next part is 2 of these are going to be the same, and then the other 2 are the same. Sometimes it's the top 2, sometimes it's the ones right across from each other, and sometimes it's like the diagonal ones. So don't get used to the position on the paper. It just depends on what's given in the problem. So this one says 2x, so we want 2 times 30, which is 60. And then the remaining angle is the blank one, so that's also 60. So on this problem, both of those are the same. And then you can either do 4y, which is 4 times 30, and get 120, or you could plug it in, or you could just do 180 minus 60 is 120. Remember that these should add up to 180. If you did it right, they should add up to 180. Any questions? Okay. All right, number 9, explain why LR is congruent to RL and CBA is congruent to ABC are both true by reflexive. So this says it's a reflection about the point R, and that's not true. Basically, this one says it's 2 ways to name the segment, and then CBA and ABC are 2 ways to name this. And so both segments are examples of saying something's congruent to itself. That is going to be our answer. If we look at this one, it says it's a reflection about the point L, which is not true. So we're basically not reflecting about a point at all. Any questions? Okay. So then this one says angle 4 is 90, so I'll put 90 right there. This says angle 5 is 53, and this says angle 6 is 37. So to get angle 1, the easiest way is just use your vertical angles. If you got 90 there, then you're going to have 90 there. And for angle 2, it's across from 53, and on angle 3, it's across from 37. So just look at what's across from it, because that's what your vertical angles are. So 90, 53, and 37. Okay, so this next one you may notice from your Math Excel. This says miniature golf, but the same thing would be true if you're shooting pool. Basically, it's saying that the ball is going to bounce off at the same angle, where if this is 44, so is this. So you get 88 for this angle. Now the next one, you do 180 minus 88, you get 92, and then divide that by 2, so each of these are 46. And that's your congruent complements. So basically, if these two are congruent, then these two have to be. And the easiest way to do it is actually just add these together, subtract from 180, and divide by 2. Any questions? Okay. Now, again, on the proofs on paper, this is listed twice, so I usually cross out the top one because I use this one, which actually says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all that. So I'm going to cross out that part. It says C is the midpoint of AD, which is here, and so that's going to be given. If you don't want to write it, you don't have to, but it's given. Remember what we said before, this one is usually a definition or a theorem or a postulate. So it says C is the midpoint of AD, and so if that's the midpoint, which means the middle, then this is equal to this one. And so that's what they did. So this is going to be definition of midpoint. Then all they did is they took off the bars and changed it from congruent to equal, and that's just congruent segments have equal length. And then they're going to change AC to 2x and this to this. So that's your substitution. Almost every proof has substitution. Okay. Now they say use the addition property of equality. So if you have a couple of x terms and a number term, you're not going to move the number at all. you're going to basically add 2x to both. And so you get 4x equals 12, which is the top one. And then think about going from 12 to 3 and from 4x to x, so that's division. Any questions? Okay. Number 13, this one kind of looks random, but it's about using the law of syllogism. If Patrick is potty trained, he sleeps at the house. If he sleeps at the house, then you're going to have pancakes for breakfast. So the law of syllogism would be that your middles match. And so basically, if he's potty trained, then you're going to have pancakes. So that's B. So if you look at the equivalent question on your review 2, it's going to be number 19. I looked at this earlier. It's really just random statements. This one says, if we go out, then we'll get sushi. If we get sushi, then I'll be happy. So it would be the go out and be happy. Yeah. So that's going to be B on your homework. Okay. Okay. So that's number 13. Number 14. Again, this is a duplicate of this, so I'm going to mark this out. Okay, fill in the reason that justifies each step, and there's your drawing. It says they're supplementary, and then angles that form a linear pair are supplementary. Now, the next part of this is actually changing these to put m's in front and changing supplementary to 180. So that's going to be definition of supplementary. Definition of supplementary. And so you can just choose that. It's the bottom one. Definition of supplementary. Okay. The next one is you're changing from letters to an expression for both of these. Remember, an expression could involve x as well as numbers. So this is our friend, the substitution. Substitution. Okay. The next one, you have x plus 3x, and it changes to 4x. So what I think about on this is combine like terms. But on the one for this, it either says transitive, substitution, or distributive. So you have to do distributive, and it's because you think about, let me put distributive. You think about x and then 1 plus 3, like that. So that's how they get x plus 3x and change it to 4x. So again, I'm not a big fan of that, but that's what they're thinking. So just based on these three choices, it's got to be distributive. Any questions? Okay, then from here you're going from 180 to 160 and subtracting basically. And then you're going from 160 to 40, so you're dividing. So that's that one. Okay, there. All right. So the last one we're doing today, we'll finish the rest of this tomorrow, says find the value of the variable and the measure of the angle. So again, this is one where you're going to want to write the different equations like I do, the 5x minus y equal to 2y. And then I'm going to do this one, which is 5x minus y plus x plus y equal 180. Because remember, if it makes a straight line, it's 180. And then this is the other equation. We've got x plus y plus 2y equal 180. Okay, so there are different ways to go about this. First thing I think about is this has x and y, this has x and y, and so does this. So then I look through it again, and I see this has minus y plus y, so that's going to cancel out. So that would be the way I do it. And I say 5x plus x is 6x, and so x is 30. If you had preferred to do it this way, you could have said, well, both of these are 180, so you could set those equal to each other. If you really wanted to, you could set that equal to this. But I think that'd be a little more complicated. Okay, so my next step would be I found x, so now I need to find y. I can either plug it into this equation once, or I could plug it into this equation once. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to do this one on the left. So 5 times 30, which we know is 150, minus y equal 2y. Then we're going to add y to both, so we get 150 equal 3y, and then when we divide we get 50. And it's the same thing if you did it over here. You would have said basically 30 plus 3y equal 180, and so then you get 3y is 150, and then y is 50. So you could have used any of the equations. It's just I chose the one without the 180 to work with. And then the next step would be, I'm going to do 2 times y because that looks easy. 2 times y would be 2 times 50, which is 100. And then this one, the 5x minus y, is also going to be 100. Because they're the same. If you want to plug it in to check, you can. It's basically 5 times 30, it's 150, minus 50 is 100. So these two match, and then the others have to add up, you know, to 180. So this is going to be 80 and 80. Or you could just say 30 plus 50 is 80, and then the remaining angle is the blank one. So, okay, that seems to be a good stopping point for the day. We'll continue this tomorrow. So now either work on your Math Excel or work on your Review 2.